the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Tuesday, March 10th. Hope everybody's having a fantastic week so far. Thank you, CP Milken. I love that Jonathan has as his handle a kind of a reference to my favorite financier of the 20th century. Milken, and so thank you, Jonathan. All right, let's see. We are going to let's jump in, talk about Iran. Yesterday was a very confusing day for I think a lot of people trying to follow the war, because Trump kept making statements, kept giving talks, talking to the press, talking to an audience of Republicans, and kept changing the story. The war was going to end soon. It was going to continue for a long time. It was ambiguous what the goals were. It just up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. A lot of people were super depressed because they got the sense from Trump that he was gonna end this war very soon. Some Israeli commentators were saying Israel needs to speed up their attacks and make sure they cover all the strategic things, because Trump is gonna end this war any minute now. It was a very, very confusing, very upsetting, I think, day yesterday for a lot of people. And, it's Donald Trump, so it will confuse. Trump is the real uncertainty in this war. He is the one providing the uncertainty. We can't even know what the Iranians want to do. We can't even know what the Iranians will do. But it really does seem like, Trump is changing his mind constantly, or at least in the way he's presenting himself, changing it constantly. So, we're just going to hang in there and see what actually happens. It is hard to tell what actually happens, but let's see. In terms of war goals, the Iranian Navy is cut by half, maybe more. It will be gone before the war ends. Missiles, Israel is saying that they will have destroyed the missile-producing capabilities of the Iranians by the end of the week. I'm skeptical about that statement, because some of the missile-building capabilities are deep underground. Maybe they blocked the entrances, but they haven't destroyed those capabilities. And blocking the entrances is good for a while, but ultimately they'll be opened and the facilities will start up again. So I'm worried about that one, but they've basically been diminished dramatically. And you see that in the fact that Israel went like 10 hours last night without any missile attacks. So missile attacks are dwindling. Ballistic missiles, they don't have them, or they don't have access to them, or they don't have the launchers, or all of the above. The same with drones. Drones attacks are being reduced significantly. So missiles, big steps are being taken, more to come. Not as easy as the Navy, where it's all visible. You can see the boats. You can knock them down. You can sink them. Harder to do with missiles. A nuclear program, this we talked about yesterday, really hard. There is 460 kilogram of uranium enriched to 60%. That's what needs to be, handed over, taken, destroyed. I don't know, can you destroy uranium? If that thing was bombed directly, would it be destroyed? Maybe somebody out there is more familiar with nuclear energy than I am. Is it radioactive in the sense that it's very difficult to transport? It's going to be difficult. 460 kilo is not a small amount. That's what, 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium, radioactive, I assume, uranium. How do you get it out of there? Where do you take it? I mean, where do you take it's not a problem. How do you get it out of there is going to be the issue. So, don't know. And it seems impossible to me to imagine that Trump would end the campaign without a definitive solution to the nuclear program. That was the whole excuse. That was the reason for all of it. That's been the excuse for 20 years. So it would be a complete failure, I think, on the part of Trump if he walked away without destroying their nuclear capabilities. And that means without having possession of the 460 kilograms of uranium or having it transferred to somebody, to the Russians or something, or having them somehow sealed away somewhere where the Iranians could never get to. I don't know how you would do that. Remember that Witkoff claimed that the Iranians told him that they were just weeks away from building 11 atomic bombs with that uranium. Does that mean they have access to it? I thought it was buried still deep underground in Isfahan. Nobody knows. I mean, none of us know. I assume the Mossad knows. I assume American intelligence knows, although who knows? I hope they know. I hope they know. And of course, the solution to all of this, right? The solution to missiles, the solution to the nuclear program is regime change. That's the real solution. And it really does seem like the U.S. and even Israel are walking back their commitment to regime change. I think I've been reading that Israeli intelligence estimates now are that regime change is not going to happen, even though Israel has weakened the forces that are used to repress demonstrators and repress the potential opposition. They've really hurt them. They've taken out the main headquarters. They've taken out their intelligence services. They've really hurt both the IRGC, but also the Basij, the several Basij unit headquarters and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps infrastructure have been destroyed, not just in Tehran, but in other cities as well. So they believe that they've created the environment in which this could happen. Now, I still think that this could still happen. I still think regime change is possible. It's true that it's not in the control of the Israelis or the Americans, but I do think that once the opportunity becomes ready, it will happen. It is frustrating that it really does seem that Trump did not have a plan for regime change, no discussions with the opposition, no discussion with Pahlavi, no discussions with ethnic groups, and of course the Kurds off. We talked about why the Kurds are not going to participate. It just no plan, which is typical of Trump, right? No real plan. And then, of course, no plan to get the oil out of the Hormuz Straits. We'll get to that in a little bit. Other than that, militarily, this is an incredibly successful operation. They're achieving much of what they set out to do. Again, the missiles are gone. The IRCG is dramatically a GC, is dramatically weakened. They've killed much of the leadership in Iran. The leadership is pretty thin. Rumors are, although, who knows, but these are rumors. Nobody's seen the new supreme leader. Rumors are he might be dead, or he might be a vegetable. He might be in hospital somewhere connected to tubes. Nobody knows. And maybe they've appointed him as a ruse while they've really appointed somebody else who's running things. Probably all those rumors are false. But there's no question that Khamenei, the younger, Khamenei, the son, has not shown his face anywhere. They are kissing and groveling before photographs of him, but he is nowhere to be seen. So no question, this has been a huge military success. Will they let it play out to become a huge 21st century changing political success as well? For that, we need probably another couple of weeks in order to really pulverize this regime and get it to the point where the Iranian people are ready to come out into streets and replace them. So we will see. I mean, look, one thing is for sure. One thing we've discovered, that Iran is a nothing militarily. I mean, literally a nothing militarily. Yes, they can hide the enriched uranium deep down in the ground. Yes, they can hide their missiles in deep caves, deep down in the ground. Yes, maybe some of the political leaders can hide in bunkers or in who knows where. There were a number of assassinations today in Tehran. We still don't know who was taken out. We'll find out in the hours to come. But yeah, they can hide. They can hide. But in terms of military performance, Iran's performance has been abysmal, pathetic. I mean, really bad. The number of ballistic missiles they've launched has been much lower than expected. 94 to 96% of them have been knocked down. The same is true of the drones. Now, it is true that the drones hit some things that people didn't expect, like locations in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Bahrain and Qatar and so on. But they should have expected it. And the success rate is teeny, particularly when you consider what the Israelis and the Americans are doing. They're basically shooting fish in the barrel. And the question only is, how deep have those fish hidden inside tunnels and deep underground? Objectively, this is totally one-sided. The United States wins this hands down. Israel wins this hands down. But do they achieve their long-term political aims? To achieve the very long-term political aims, that requires regime change. That's going to be difficult, always was difficult. I still think it's doable. We will see. We will see. But and if the nuclear program, weapons program continues, then it's clearly a failure. In terms of strategic long-term, military, huge success. Strategic failure if Iran continues the nuclear program. I don't think they will be able to. I don't think they will be able to, but we will see. The Islamic regime might continue because Trump will not commit to the regime change idea. I think the Israelis would. I don't think Trump is willing to do that. But we will see. I don't know. Yesterday, some of the mainstream media was showing these massive rallies, hundreds of thousands of people, it looked like, celebrating the appointment of the new supreme leader. And it was like, oh, so many Iranians are celebrating this. It turns out it was old footage from some other gathering, and they put on the Iranians told them this is happening, but it was old footage. So no, the Iranian people are ready for the revolution, and we will see what happens. But it does look like Israel has and Americans have weakened the regime enough so that maybe we'll see an uprising. I think this will be unprecedented, and it will happen. Jacob says 400 kilograms of uranium is about 3 basketballs in volume. Interesting. How radioactive is it? How would you handle? How would anybody handle those basketballs? Would they have to be in kind of lead? I don't know, whatever it is that isolates them. I'm curious. They're not very big, but uranium is very dense. Yes, I get that. But how easy or hard it is to I mean, rumors are still that both Israel and the United States are preparing a special forces operation to remove the enriched uranium. And if there's easy access, that should be easy. If it's hard access, it could take weeks. And they would have to secure an entire area. That's boots on the ground. That's a problem. Of course, if the United States takes the island which I hope they do. That's boots on the ground. Trump might hesitate doing that. It is really, really, really frustrating that these things were not worked out in advance, and that Trump is such an amateur when it comes to this stuff. All right, Miroslav says, from AI, enriched uranium poses several health hazards, primarily enough through its chemical toxicity to the kidneys and its high internal radioactivity. While alpha particles are blocked by skin, ingestion or inhaling enriched particles can cause DNA damage, lung cancer, and reproductive issues. It's also a critical, highly toxic material. The question is it stored right now in kind of lead? I mean, I wonder if AI knows how the Iranians have stored their 400 and something kilograms of uranium. That'd be an interesting question to ask ChatGPT or whoever. I mean, in spite of Trump's saying this short term, maybe it'll end soon, maybe a week or whatever, the United States is not acting that way, the military. So the Ford is still in the Red Sea waiting for all the ships all the ships that are part of its entourage to come out of the Suez Canal and move into position. That is a major offensive weapon. Maybe it could be used partially to open up the Hormuz Straits. Again, we'll get to those in a minute. Maybe for other operations. Obviously, they have 175 airplanes, I think, on board of the Ford, F-35s and other airplanes. So it provides major battlefield, upgrade to what exists right now. But the United States, for example, there's a story now that it's removing all the ground-to-air missiles, the THAAD batteries, in South Korea, and they're shipping them to the Middle East. That's interesting, first of all, because it exposes South Korea. Hopefully they have also Patriots. But the fact that they're bolstering defenses in the Middle East suggests that they still view this operation as continuing for quite a while. So my guess is the Arab countries are complaining that they don't have enough air defense batteries, and the United States is providing more. The Arab countries are. Trump jumps when these oil nations talk. Yep. I mean, one of the problems with the Iranian nuclear program and the complete destruction of the Iranian program is a lot of it is knowledge, right? How to do these things. And that is hard to eradicate. I mean, you can't kill every scientist as much as I think the Israelis would like. The knowledge cannot be erased. Technically, the Iranians can rebuild and revive their program, even if they suffer massive damage and even if the 400 and something kilos are taken. But it's really expensive. And Iran is already very poor. And, the damage the United States and Israel have done now to the Iranian infrastructure and to Iran is significant and substantial. So it's going to be very difficult for them to restart this program, particularly if they have to re-enrich the uranium from scratch. I think from the Israeli perspective, they would like the complete removal of the enriched material. But it could be that they are just willing to destroy as much of the capabilities of the Iranians and assume that they won't economically be able to resurrect the program in the future. Of course, again, regime change solves all these problems. All right. What else? All right. So, big story breaking right now is that U.S. intelligence believes that the Iranians have started placing mines in the Straits of Hormuz. Iran has between 2,000 to 6,000 naval mines of Iranian, Chinese, and Russian origin. And they're placing them. Now, they don't have any big ships to do this with. So supposedly they're doing it with small ships that can carry 2 to 3 mines each. Now, if this is true, I don't quite understand why the U.S. Navy is not right there to take out these boats that are placing the mines. I don't know why the U.S. Air Force is not taking these boats out as a high priority as they are deployed. Why isn't there a no-float zone off the coast of Iran where any Iranian vessel that is in that area just gets sunk automatically? I don't know. But there is this rumor that they are laying mines in the Straits of Hormuz. Trump has addressed this. He put out a tweet not so long ago saying, if you want us to put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, and we have no reports of them doing so, he claims, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before by all of mankind. If, on the other hand, they remove what they have placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. So Trump is threatening. He wants their removal immediately. Not clear, what exactly is going to be done if he does it. We will see. We will see what happens with these mines. It is a big deal. Mines are very difficult to skirt. They're very difficult to get around. We will see. All right. Let's see. A few other things. Hexas said today that today would be the most intense day of U.S. attacks on Iran. The U.S. has, I think 3 B-2s, 3 B-1s, and at least 3 B-52s within range of Iran. That is, I think they're all in military bases or Air Force bases in the UK. And they could go out and take them out. So Q weekends. I don't know what the question is. What are you asking? There might be a question there, but if you want me to answer it, you're gonna have to clarify what you mean. All right. The Tomahawk missile is a cruise missile, so I'm not sure what you're asking. What else do we have? All right, so basically it says this is going to be the most intense day. Lots of bombing, big planes carry big loads, carry big bombs. It'll be interesting to see what they're being used to target. The Chief of Staff, Dan Kane said that so far the United States military struck 5,000 targets since the start of the war, and that U.S. and Iran together have resulted in a reduction of 90% of the Islamic Republic's missile launches. No, not missiles, missile launches against Israel and the Gulf states. Again, the Iranians are pathetic, right? And the U.S. has completely overwhelmed them and crushed them. We will see how exactly this moves and how soon it moves and how, it's Trump. So anything's on the table and you can't tell when it's going to happen. One of the considerations is the cost of this war. This war is super expensive. The U.S. used in the first 2 days of the operation, the cost of munitions was $5.6 billion. Over the 10 days, they're estimating that the cost just of the munitions have been $28 billion. B with a B, billion. that is huge. That is huge. So we will, again, I think that there'll be pressure. There'll be, I'm just watching a video. It just came up on my screen. A video of, what's his name? Cenk Uygur, the guy from the Young Turks, just yelling into the camera. He's sweating and he's yelling and he's pounding the table. And he's like, Israel is America's #1 enemy. They're not an ally. They're the enemy. We should go after them. There's never been an enemy greater than Israel in my entire lifetime. And he's like sweating and he's dripping. He's a big guy. And it's just, the guy's pathetic. It's pretty funny. Sorry. I don't know who he's talking to. Anyway, costs are going to be a big deal. And of course, mining the Straits of Hormuz and the implication in terms of oil are being significant. Another oil implication is the Trump administration has told the Israelis that not to carry out any additional strikes on energy facilities in Iran, particularly oil facilities. This is after Israel bombed the big oil depot over the weekend. The president wants to cooperate with Iran's oil sector after the war. So he doesn't want it destroyed. And he's also worried about massive Iranian retaliation against energy infrastructure across the Gulf states. But remember, they're not launching much. There's not much that could be launched. Also, of course, Trump is concerned about oil prices going up, so he'd rather not see oil depots, refineries, oil fields kind of up in smoke. Let's see. What else do we have? All right. This one. Yeah. Witkoff today was asked about the story about Russians providing the Iranians with intelligence and targeting and helping them with targeting against U.S. forces. And this is what Witkoff said. Well, I'm not an intel officer, so I can't tell you. I can tell you that yesterday on the call with the president, the Russians said that they have not been sharing. Of course, we believe everything Putin tells us. That's what they said. So, we can take them at their word, but they did say that. And yesterday morning, independently, Jared and I had a call with Ushakov, who reiterated the same. So, that's a better question for the intel people, but let's hope they're not sharing. Hope. Hope is a powerful thing, particularly when you believe everything Vladimir Putin tells you. All right, let's see. All right, a little bit about drones. So we've talked about this, the fact that Ukraine has technology to down these drones much more effectively than technology that the U.S. has deployed in the Arab states. Israel has its own drone, destroying technology. It has the laser beams. So Israel's very far away, so it's easy to knock the drones down on the way. But that's not the case with the Gulf states, who are all right there in the Gulf. They're very, very close to Iran, and the damage can be quite severe. And it turns out the Ukraine has a technology that can really protect you from these drones. And now it's coming out that Ukrainian officials offered the Trump administration a plan to establish a worldwide operating anti-drone network, which would not only operate in Europe, but also in the Middle East, and even potentially in East Asia with our allies. The exchange, so supposedly they offered this in August of 2025, so 6 months ago, 8 months ago. The defense network, which would have been made up by 20 million drones, a multi-layer capability, and assert American drone dominance, would have been capable to counter even the Shahad waves, which are harassing the Middle East right now. Harassing is the right word, not really destroying, harassing. The plan was dismissed by the Trump administration back in August. At the same time, by the way, that Putin was coming out to Alaska to meet his best bud. I think the United States probably regrets that right now. Certainly, the Gulf states regret that the United States didn't provide them with this basis. It seems like 3 professional drone teams from Ukraine have arrived in the Middle East now in order to support the efforts to neutralize Iranian drones. The 3 countries that are getting these teams are Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. And supposedly this all was confirmed by Zelensky. In addition, a Saudi Arabian arms company has signed a deal to buy Ukrainian-made interceptor missiles. This is a drone defense system. I don't know, when this will arrive, but this is great for the Ukrainians. It's a lot of revenue. The Saudis can pay up, and this will provide them with a defense system. Now, how quickly that can be deployed, we're probably not talking about imminently. So this is for the future, even though the deal might be finalized right now. Let's see. Yeah, that is the same drone deal. I'm just looking through. All right, so that's drones. The U.S. missed an opportunity. Ukraine has become the world's leading, really, authority on drones. They are building drones. They have the capacity to build drones. They're building drone defense systems. They know drones. They've been fighting this war now for, since 2022, so 4 years. Much of that time has been a drone war. They are now recognized, I think, in Europe and the United States as the best in the world. They have manufacturing plants. They're opening up manufacturing plants in Europe to produce the drones and the anti-drone technologies. They are probably right now the best in the world at that tech. It's sad, tragic really, that the United States is so hostile to Ukraine, that the Trump administration has not cooperated more closer with Ukraine, has not built up that relationship, and as a consequence, bolstered America's drone capabilities, as part of this. But that's Trump, right? I mean, being best buds with Putin and rejecting Zelensky has consequences, and this certainly is one of the consequences. The consequence is not having the best technology in the world right now, and now I'm sure the American companies making even more advanced technologies in terms of drones. The difference is Ukraine is battle tested, battle refined, battle flexible in a way that American technology still has to be proven, right? America did use for the first time ever, I think, in battle, the one-way suicide drone that is modeled after the Iranian drones. And I said on a previous show that the Iranians invented that drone, and that was a mistake. So I take that back. I was wrong. It happens. It turns out that the technology for the drones the Iranians use was actually developed a long time ago in Germany. And that the Iranians copied a German technology. They're copiers, after all. They're not innovators. They copied a German technology and built up their drone capabilities. But the invention, the innovation, the tech is not Iranian tech. It's fundamentally German tech. All right. So let's talk a little bit about oil. We've talked about this before, but this is still. I'm looking at oil prices. Let's look now at oil prices. Let's see where we are. Today, unbelievably volatile. Just the volatility, the up and down. Every little piece of news changes. I'm sure the mines, the story about the mines raised the prices off the lows. But I'm looking at kind of the last few days. Oil hit a peak of 116.79. This is crude oil. I think this is West Texas. 116.79. It hit a low earlier today of 75.3. So on Sunday, it hit 116.79. Then it went down on Monday. Then today, it took this dip into the 75.30. and then immediately spiked up again, and it's now at 86.70. So never seen volatility like this, and part of it is we're going to have convoys of getting the oil out with U.S. Navy. Okay, that's good news. And then they say, well, that might take a while. But in the meantime, oil ships are sneaking by. So some of the oil is coming through. Okay, that's good news. But how much? Not a lot. Bad news. They're mining the Straits of Hormuz. Bad news. Is it really happening? We don't know. Maybe good news. Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, tweeted earlier that the U.S. Navy successfully escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz to ensure oil remains flowing to global markets. And that's when oil took that tumble to 70-something. But then he deleted the tweet, which means maybe it wasn't true. Maybe it didn't really happen. Maybe it was fake news. So back and forth, back and forth. Even with the sneaking of oil coming through the Hormuz, it's only about 10% of what usually goes through. That's wrong, 20%. It looks like 20% of what usually goes through. Now, it's also true that the Saudis have announced that they're using the pipeline to move oil in the western direction, and but again, that is only a part of the total oil, and it's only the Saudis, so they can get around. They can get around it. It'll be a little bit more expensive there because then they still have to go to China, which is east, not west. So there are ways around the blocking of the Hormuz Straits, but none of them are satisfactory. None of them lead to a complete resumption of oil flows from the region, and quite difficult. As I said, in just 2 hours, oil prices fell $10 and then rose $11, complete in 2 hours. Again, nobody's seen volatility like this, at least in a long, long, long time. So Saudi Arabia will export up to 74% of its exports from eastern to western ports. So we'll see how that goes. That, I think, is moderating the rise in the price of oil, that oil is going to come on market. And finally, the United States, as well as Europe and other parties around the world, are considering now using the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But here's the problem for the Americans, because the Democrats are yelling, why isn't he opening up the reserves? Why isn't he getting the reserves out there so gasoline prices won't go up? Well, it turns out that it's very difficult for the Americans to do it because of what the Biden administration has done. So let's just be clear. Congress established the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in 1975 after the Arab oil embargo of 73 to basically mitigate shocks to the system. Before Biden, the oil reserve was used 3 times. Gulf War of 1991, but a small amount, 17 million barrels. Hurricane Katrina, because Hurricane Katrina impacted many of the refineries on the Gulf, right, where oil is refined in the United States. And they opened up the Strategic Reserve, 11 million. And then when there was unrest in Libya in 2011, another 30 million. However, during the Biden presidency, when inflation was hitting and oil prices were going up because of inflation, not because of any shock to the system, not because of any wars, not because of anything substantive like that, but because of all the stimulus that Trump and Biden had flowed into the economy during 2020 and 2021, Biden decided to use the Strategic Reserve to release 50 million barrels, the most ever, in November 2021. And the idea was to try to get the cost of oil down before the midterm elections. And then after Russia invaded Ukraine in March of 2022, again in support of arguably midterms in 2022, they released another 180 million barrels over 6 months. Now, the scale of that release was completely unprecedented. Never had so much released. I mean, usually that was 1 million barrels a day. And the consequence of that was, by the way, gasoline prices barely budged. But the consequence was that the reserves were depleted, and the actual sites where the reserves are held, these geological sites around the Gulf Coast where they keep the oil, those were damaged because oil flew out of there so quickly. They need major innovations before any oil is either taken out or more oil put back in. You know, I was complaining the other day that they hadn't topped up the reserves before the war. And part of the reason for that is that the storage facilities need to be repaired before they can be filled. So this is not Trump's fault. I might have been wrong the other day. Again, God. Anyway, this is Biden's fault. It'll cost about $218 million to repair, which is not that much money if you think about the federal budget. But they haven't done it. And to withdraw more now is a problem. Now, it could be that other countries use their reserves. European countries have reserves. Canada has reserves. East Asian countries have reserves. All those reserves could also lower the cost of oil in the global market. So maybe that is why the price of oil is not skyrocketing as far as everybody expected. All right, finally, on this topic, I guess more broadly, it's worth noting that in spite of oil going up, in spite of the fact that people are worried about how this war will end and what Trump will do and regime change or not, and what exactly is the end game, nobody quite exactly knows, and Trump gives constant mixed signals. In spite of all that uncertainty, the stock market has not gone down a lot. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, since the start of the Iran war, the S&P 500 is down less than 1%. Right. Less than 1%. Right. So markets are not that terrified from what's going on. So, we will see. I mean, if you think about what he did in Liberation Day, and when the markets were down 12% in just a few days, now we're going to war, which you'd think would have much bigger consequence. The markets are kind of shrugging it off, which is interesting. And I think that if the markets had plummeted during the war and continued to plummet during the war, that would have been a really bad sign. Also, would have been a reason for Trump to maybe stop the war early. Right? So, market is responding well. And this suggests the war is going maybe better than a lot of the pundits would suggest it is. Kind of trust markets. Trust market signals. All right, a quick reminder that the show is funded through support of you guys listening and watching live right now. And we have a target, $250 an hour. We're approaching the end of the first hour. We've got 15 more minutes. It's plenty of time. And we're short about $150 on that goal. So please consider doing a sticker or doing a $20 question, so we can get the numbers up there, and we can cover kind of the base for my time and for the Yaron Brook Show. All right, of course, only if you appreciate what I do and you appreciate the show and you appreciate what's up. There we go. Colleen just did $20. That's the way to do it. Colleen did a sticker for $20. Roland did a sticker for Swiss francs. So who knows how much that's worth? It could be worth a fortune. The way Swiss francs are just going up. And of course, it all got started with Jonathan Honing putting in a sticker early in the show. So thank you guys. Really, really appreciate it. All right, so let's shift away from the war and let's shift to New York City. So Saturday afternoon, outside of the mayor's residency in New York City, Gracie Mansion, where Mamdani resides, there was a protest. The protest was called Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City, Stop New York City Public Muslim Prayer. Organized by some right-wing influencer, Jack Lang, who I've never heard of. And it was there to protest Mamdani. Now, this is a group of about 20 people. And then there was a group of about 125 people who were counter-protesting. They called themselves Run the Nazis Out of New York City, Stand Against Hate. All right, so just a standard New York, two groups protesting one another. And it just, nothing to see here. The police were there. It didn't look like it was going to get out of hand. Everything was fine. But then, one of the counter-protesters, one of the Run the Nazis Out of Town protesters, one of them threw an object towards the right-wing group, object about the size of a football, with a lit fuse. And the guy who threw it ran off. Now, initial reports were that this was just a dummy, but the police supposedly set the record straight on Sunday afternoon by saying, quote, it is, in fact, an improvised explosive device that could have caused serious injury or death. I'm reading this from a free press article. And ultimately, officers arrested two men in connection with the attack, Amir Balat, who's 18, who threw the bomb, and Ibrahim Traoré, 19, who supplied the bomb. And the FBI is probing to see if there were others involved. In some videos, you can actually hear someone shout, Allah Akbar, right? God is great, as the bomb is being thrown. It was probably the guy who threw it that shouted that. The interesting thing is, this is way underreported. Almost nobody's reporting it. Now, it looks like a pretty amateuristic thing. The thing didn't go off. But if it had gone off, people would have been injured and potentially killed. It was a real bomb. Supposedly they threw the bomb because they believed the protesters were insulting Islam. And they were inspired and radicalized by watching ISIS videos. So here we have ISIS in New York. Now, of course, Mamdani completely ignored it. This is what he wrote. Yesterday, white supremacist Jack Lang organized a protest outside Gracie Mansion, rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It is an affront to our city's values and unity that defines who we are. What followed was even more disturbing. Violence at the protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device and hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and antithesis of who we are. Without saying who threw the device, which side of the protest. You would think that it was the racists and bigots who threw it. I want to thank the brave men and women of NYPD who acted quickly to keep New York safe. Our officers ran towards danger without hesitation, demonstrating once again the courage and dedication it takes to protect the city every single day. My administration is closely monitoring the situation, and I remain in close contact with Police Commissioner. No mention of Islam, no mention of ISIS, no mention of Allah Akbar, nothing. It's just violence occurred. Like violence just rained in from the sky. It just came from somewhere. We don't know where. And maybe, it's not even clear from the statement, maybe it came from the white supremacists. Instead of denouncing a terrorist attack, he denounces, quote, violence. I mean, now, of course, even using the word terrorism would be wrong. What he needs to denounce, what has to be denounced, is Islamism. But then what do you expect? I mean, George Bush wouldn't denounce Islamism. Why would you expect Mamdani to denounce Islamism? So, we get we get an Islamist throwing a bomb, and it's just violence. Violence is happening in New York. Bad. Violence bad. We don't want violence. Good policemen. This is the state of the culture. This is where we are. All right. Some good news. I've got 3 good news stories. Can you believe it? 3 good news stories. First, Young LeCun, who I believe is of Chinese origin, but who is a pioneer in the field of artificial intelligence and was the head of artificial intelligence at Meta, but who left. And I remember I talked on the show about the fact that he left, saying that LLMs were dead end. That wasn't the essence of AI. AI could do a lot better, and he left Meta. Well, he has started a company basically promising to invent technology much more capable of navigating real-world challenges than the LLMs that, ChatGPT and Claude and all of these. The startup, which is only 3 months old, is called Advanced Machine Intelligence. And it has just announced that it raised $1.03 billion in an opening, we used to call seed round. $1.03 billion. With a valuation of $3.5 billion. Like, the company's 3 months old. Produced nothing so far. Is proposing something super speculative. That he can design an AI system that's not an LLM, and that a lot of the big companies have passed on. And excuse me. Woo. And investors are giving them a valuation of $3.5 billion. It really is amazing. The money has come in from, Cathay Innovations, Jeff Bezos' investment office, NVIDIA, Samsung, Greycroft, Hero Capital, and HV Capital. It's one of the largest first funding rounds ever in Europe. So this was raised in Europe, and the company's in Europe. And it's just stunning, the amount of money. It's for again, something completely unproven, really a research project, right? Not even a real company yet. But he's got $1.03 billion. So he's got a lot of runway. He can hire a lot of people. He can do a lot of stuff. I guess he's French. I don't know why I thought no, he's not Chinese. Yeah, I see a picture of him. Yan, Y-A-N-N. I thought that's a Chinese name. No, he's French. So he's a French computer scientist. Again, used to ran research for Meta, and is now has his own company. He's a big critic of large language models, we'll see. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to see capital flowing into new technologies, whether it fails or succeeds. It's exciting to see new stuff being done and people pushing the boundaries and not settling for just LLMs, but looking for better and greater stuff. He's very, very well regarded. The company will be based in Paris. But it will have offices in New York, Montreal, and Singapore. We will see. He's a big critic of Donald Trump, it turns out. So maybe that's why he's in Paris. Exciting to watch. We'll see what happens. Right? He's aiming to build what's called a world model that learns abstract representations of reality, similar to the mental models humans use to reason and guide action in the physical world. I'm a little skeptical, right? But let him try, and maybe something good will come of it, even if he's not going to achieve what I don't think he can achieve. These systems predict how situations evolve and how actions lead to consequences, so that they can plan sequences of actions under real-world constraints. He'll have $1 billion to prove that he can build something like that. That was good news number one. Good news number two. For the first time in 52 years, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission has approved the construction of a nuclear reactor based on, a coolant technology invented after 1960. So a modern nuclear power plant. First time they've approved it, and they just have. So TerraPower, advanced reactor project in Wyoming, just received construction permit from the government. It's the first commercial non-light water power reactor construction permit to be approved ever by the NRC. So that's good. We're moving towards maybe some nuclear power plants and maybe new technologies and maybe some innovation in nuclear power. I think the tide has really shifted. And I think this is partially Trump, but I think it's broader than that. I think even Democrats now recognize that nuclear is the future. Nuclear is the future. Finally, flying cars. I know you all want your flying cars. But the U.S. Department of Transportation has announced that new aircraft, flying car-like aircraft, will be in the sky as early as June of this year. These aircraft are going to be able to take off and land the way helicopters do, but are going to fly like airplanes. They are launching a 3-year pilot program that will, again, start in June. They'll have 8 different aircraft designs, and these aircraft will carry people and cargo around the country before the FAA, the regulatory agency, has issued full certification. Oh my God, what's going to happen? The regulators have not fully certified it, and it's already flying. What are we going to do? Well, we'll survive. The initiative will span 26 states, including New York, New Jersey, Florida, and New Mexico. It's going to be super interesting. The aircraft are supposedly quieter, less expensive than helicopters or airplanes. Several of them, like the vertical takeoff, and some of them have what's it called, ultra short takeoff. So they can take off and land with a lot less space and don't require traditional airports. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be used and where they're going to be used. But they're talking about having urban air taxi services, regional passenger transportation, and use for emergency response operations. So for all of you who've been complaining that you don't have your flying car, it looks like it might be happening. It looks like it might happen, at least in the form of taxi services. They're going to be flying. They're calling this the Waymo moment of flying cars. We're looking at a number of different companies funded by some big guys like Toyota and JetBlue. And it's going to be really fun and interesting to watch this, and exciting that in spite of everything, in spite of the world going crazy, in spite of everything going on with the world, cool stuff is happening. Cool stuff is happening. Innovation is happening. People are still thinking out of the box. They're still coming up with new ideas. They're still putting themselves out there and trying to do new stuff. All right, it appears that as I was going through the topics, I was so rushing to get to something positive that I skipped the portion of the section on Piers Morgan. So I'm giving you the section on Piers Morgan. We'll do it now instead of back then. We'll do it at the end. There's been a little uprising against Piers Morgan. Like my guest yesterday, Andrew Fox, basically went public with the fact that he will not go on Piers Morgan's show and turned them down And then Piers Morgan was like all pissed off and upset and like, nobody would invite you anyway, and we don't know who you are anyway. But he was invited by them, and he turned them down. So, and the basis for turning him down is you keep platforming these complete ignoramuses who know nothing about topics. Like Dave Smith is a good example of that, but others like Dave Smith who know nothing about topics, who lie all the time. You repeat their lies. I'm just not going to go on the show and sanction, he didn't use this term, sanction what you're doing with the show. Now, it turns out that Dave Rubin as well has now declined to ever appear on Piers Morgan's show. And basically said, you know, I don't want to have anything to do with kind of what you're doing. I mean, Dave Rubin on Monday called Piers Morgan a treacherous little weasel, and basically blacklisted him and his show. I guess this all happened after Piers Morgan ripped Ben Shapiro in a monologue on Piers Morgan Uncensored, accusing the Daily Wire, I'm reading from a media release, accusing the Daily Wire co-founder of being a propagandist for Israel. Dave Rubin publicly took Shapiro's side, commenting Piers would sell his mother to a jihadist for a click. Piers was very upset. 4 months ago, I drove out to do Rubin's podcast at his home in Miami as a personal favor because he's done my show many times. I thought we were friends. How wrong could I be? What a treacherous little weasel. Being Netanyahu's useful idiot has sent him and Shapiro nuts. So, yep, I mean, I'm really happy to see this. The fact that, I've often talked about this idea of sanction, and you shouldn't sanction really, really evil, horrible people. And this is a good example. People should stop going on Piers Morgan's show. He is platforming the worst kind of people, Nick Fuentes. He's platforming Dave Smith over and over and over again as if he's some expert on the Middle East when the guy is an ignorant fool. He platforms horribly anti-Israeli people who he ultimately supports. And then he attacks Ben Shapiro out of nowhere, right? As being a stooge for the Israelis. I guess Shapiro described Piers Morgan as the Jerry Springer of political television. I like that. Accusing him of making a mockery of the entire industry by putting on screen whatever dregs are still willing to go on his show. So the fact that people are refusing him, thumbs up. I'm all for that. I would turn him down. I wouldn't go on. He is not. It's not a worthwhile, credible show. All right. Let me just see something here. All right. That is the news, guys, for this Tuesday, March 10th. Thank you, guys. All right, we're still running a little low here in terms of funding the show, so please consider making a contribution. Thank you, Stephen, for the sticker. Really appreciate that. Let's see. Thank you, Jeremy. Colleen, I thanked already, but thank you again, Colleen. We got 186 people watching. It shouldn't be hard to get to our targets. Please consider doing a sticker, asking a question. If you ask a question, you're basically providing content for the show because that's what I'll talk about. Your question, what you want me to talk about. So please consider doing a question. If you do a question, please consider doing $20 or above so we can chip away in a more substantive way, away at the goal that we're running here. All right, let's see. Yes, reminder, I'm an institute holding before we get to that. If you're not a subscriber to the show, please press the subscribe button and you'll find out every time I go live or anytime we put out a short video or something like that. Press subscribe. Subscription are way up since the war started, so that's a good sign, right? January was a rough month subscription-wise. January, February, last few weeks been really good. Also, like the show. Press that, that thumbs up button, because it really just helps the algorithm. So like the show. It doesn't cost you anything to like the show. So before you leave today, press the like button. All right, we have a number of sponsors of the show. The Ayn Rand Institute reminds you of their Porto conference, where I will be speaking. Tell It's Funny will be an encore. Check it out. AynRand.org/start. Here you can get a discount. For being a listener to the show. The discount code is YBS. Sorry, no, it's 26, the number. 26 YBS 10. You get a 10% discount. Alex Epstein, the #1 authority in the world on fossil fuels and on energy, electricity, power, nuclear power. Check him out. alexepstein.substack.com. alexepstein.substack.com. You will not regret subscribing to that Substack. You'll learn so much. Robert Hendershot or hendershotwealth.com/YBS. Hendershot Wealth with 2 T's. hendershotwealth.com/YBS. I did an interview with Robert that you can find on my playlists under sponsors. We talk about saving a lot of money on taxes through particularly capital gains taxes. Check out the interview. I think you'll enjoy it. And if you like what Robert has to say, check out the website. Check out what they have to offer. And finally, defendersofcapitalism.com, defenders with an S at the end, defendersofcapitalism.com, a program defending capitalism from a moral, political, economic, philosophical, social perspective. Covers it all. Michael Williams is in charge of that. I've helped out with that program. Check out the website, and maybe you'll find that it's something maybe your company can use, or maybe somebody who would want to bring in defenders of capitalism into their business. We defend capitalism the way it needs to be defended, the way it should be defended, needs to be defended. All right. And let's see, what else did I want to say? I think we're good. Remind you to become Patreon supporters, Patreon monthly, regular supporters. That would be amazing. We'd love to have many of you. You can do it at $2. You can do it all the way to $500. Particularly for me, valuable, $100, $250, $500. Those are incredible. Really, really appreciate if some of you who listen, who are not here live, who don't do the super chat, or who do super chat, but would like to also become monthly supporters, please consider that. It is a great help to the show because it's completely predictable. All right, Marcella, I think it's Marcella. Thank you for the sticker. She says thank you, Yaron, or he says, I don't know if it's Marcella. Anyway, thank you, Marcella, and really appreciate $100 that has gotten us to our first hour goal. So now we just need to get to the second hour goal. It's doable. We can do it. We can make it. All right, Michael, if the stock market does very well for the remainder of Trump's term, will that give MAGA credibility despite its destructiveness in other sectors? I don't see how. I mean, the stock market did really, really well under Biden. Last 2 years of Biden, it went up 25% each year. And the year before that, it went up as well. So he has a huge positive running streak. I mean, it's some of the best performances for the S&P 500 ever. That didn't give Biden any credibility. I don't think the stock market is that important in terms of votes. It's important if it goes down. That's definitely important. Marcella. Okay. Thank you, Marcella. Thank you for clarifying that. And again, thank you. Really, really, really appreciate the support. Stock market going down hurts you. Stock market going up, I'm not sure it helps you a lot. Lyron, what would most rapidly demoralized supporters of the Islamic Republic, should we expect surrender or collapse? You will not get surrender. You will see collapse. What would demoralize? What would demoralize the supporters of the regime? I think taking out the supreme leader again. I think more. I think these assassinations are big. I think taking out more of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard leadership. I think just the continued bombardment of their cities and the continued just the impotence of the regime, the showing the impotence. This is why I think bombing infrastructure that hurts the civilian population is a good thing, because they'd realize just how incapable the regime is of helping them. And maybe some statements out of Trump saying, you know, if the regime collapses or if they surrender, if there is a democratic or liberal democracy in Iran, we will help fund your reconstruction. We will make it easy for you. You know, maybe we'll take a percentage of your oil, but we will make it easier for you to regain this infrastructure. So something that presents, on the one side, the regime is just going to destroy their country, destroy their lives, make it horrific for them. And on the other hand, an America that is committed to Iranian revival. I don't think you need to bomb the civilian population. I'm saying to bomb the infrastructure that benefits the civilian population, like Israel did with the oil depots. I think more like that. More like that. The Iranians are bombing only the civilian population in Israel. They're bombing nothing else but the civilian population in Israel. Not a single missile, Iranian missile, has hit any military installation, any industrial installation. All the Iranian bombs have been targeted and hit residential buildings. And that's all they target. The Iranians, they're bombing apartment buildings in Bahrain. They're bombing hotels in Dubai. They're acting exactly the opposite of the Israelis and the Americans. The Israelis and Americans super careful not to hit anything that is related to the civilian population. And the Iranians are lobbing bombs to kill as many civilians as they can. And that's all they do. They did that during the 12-Day War. They're doing it now. They did it before the 12-Day War. Lobbing them into central Tel Aviv, lobbing them into Haifa. And of course, they're having almost no success. They're hitting very little. But when one of those missiles comes through, and now they're using cluster bombs, where the missile breaks up into lots of things that you can't shoot down, all of it targeted at civilians. All of that. They have not hit a single military base. And I can tell you that because, my parents actually from their balcony look out onto the Gulf of Haifa, and they can see all the industrial, facilities in Israel. They can see military bases. Nothing there. But hitting the population centers where people are living, where civilians are living, yeah, that's all they do. That's all they do. So you can go troll somebody else. Not here, buddy. All right. I mean, people just speak without knowing anything, right? I mean, it really is pathetic. All right, James, do compulsive liars like Tucker and Candace actually get the point of believing their own lies? Yes, I think they do. It's like any kind of mystics. They get captured. I mean, he's under a spell. Oops. Remember Tucker yesterday talking about spells? If anybody's under a spell, he is. He's under this mystical thing where he believes his own lies. I think this happens to mystics a lot. They must know on some level it is all BS and a game. They're sustaining fund income. At some level they know it, but they couldn't hold it. They couldn't do their job if they constantly held that. So, you know, they evade it and they go on believing their own bullshit. Not your average algorithm. Would it be rights? Would it be rights violations to have the police round up every homeless person and force them into shelters or mental institutions? If you can't be self-sufficient, you don't have full rights. Well, no, it's just that they don't have a right to lodge on other people's property. So if we assume that the sidewalks and the roads and the parks are actual property, right now owned in quotation marks by the state, they don't have a right to just camp anywhere they want. It's not theirs. So it's not violating rights to round them up and put them in facilities especially designed for them. So you can't trespass. And that includes in government property. You can't trespass in government property. So it's absolutely not a rights violation to round them up and put them in somewhere where they can be taken care of. Or just out in the wilderness where they don't bother anybody. Liam, after Trump and MAGA are gone in 3 years, how does objectivism rise? Well, I mean, I don't think anything changes. Right now, the strategy is to develop new intellectuals and to have them go out there into the world and promote these ideas, videos and articles and books and in classes, any way they can. And that's how objectivism rises, with lots and lots of intellectuals out there. We need more. Quicken says, Tomahawk or cruise? I don't know what that question is. Tomahawk is a cruise missile. It's a very advanced American cruise missile, but I'm not sure what the question refers to. Paul, do you understand the Iranian strategy? If they want to destroy Israel, why are they firing so many missiles at the Arabs? Well, they know they can't destroy Israel. Their whole strategy is to create pressure on Trump to stop the war. It's the whole strategy. And you do that, they can't inflict enough damage on Israel to get Israel to want to stop the war. So they're hoping that by inflicting damage on the Gulf states will turn around and start putting pressure on Trump to stop the war. Plus, if they can slow oil, that'll provide more pressure on Trump to stop the war. The whole strategy is a psychological strategy against Trump. Right? That's the whole thing. Roman, she calling for ethnic unity, fascism grows. Yeah, I saw that. I haven't read exactly what he said, so let's hold on off of me commenting on that until I read what he actually says. But yes, there are 56 ethnic groups in China, so I don't know how you get ethnic unity with 56 different ethnic groups that identify themselves differently. Hard to know exactly what she is talking about. I'll have to read up on it. Roman says, Ukraine is advancing. How will Putin react? I mean, just throw more troops at it. He might ultimately react by calling for mobilization for a draft in Russia. But he doesn't have any options. He does not have any options. He does not have a strong hand. He does not hold the cards, in spite of what Trump said. Roman, Ibrahim Traoré banned all parties for promoting division among citizens and weakening the social fabric. Thoughts, are parties good or evil? Well, I mean, having political opposition and having political alternatives is good. Whether they're structures of parties or other ways is bad. But banning all parties is clearly evil and wrong and anti-liberty and anti-freedom. If I want to form a party, it's none of the government's business. So it's absolutely wrong to ban them, whether it lands up being the most effective way to promote liberty, to promote freedom, to promote disagreement and options in politics. That is an open question, but I don't know of any alternative to parties. And given that, I would say they were good. Absolutely, they were good. But whether they're good or evil, no government has a right to ban them. John, if Iran decides to sink tankers passing through Hormuz, what's the most lethal weapon systems they possess to do this? Missiles, mines, drones. Can an escort ship realistically protect from all these? Yeah, I mean, they have all of that. They have missiles, mines, and drones. And can an escort? Yeah, I mean, the escort ships are equipped with anti-drone technology. They can shoot the drones down. They can shoot ballistic missiles down or ground to sea missiles. Not clear what tech the Iranians actually have when it comes to ground to sea missiles. So hard to tell how good they are. And then in terms of mines, the United States has minesweepers, so it can go in and clear out the mines. Not easy. Mines are probably the trickiest of all. They're small mines and they're all kinds of places, and it's time consuming to get rid of the mines. It's very time consuming. So and again, the Iranians have thousands of them they could put out there. Technically, they could have underwater drones. I don't know if the Iranians do. I haven't seen anything suggesting that they do. But yeah, all of those. But I think American warships, French warships, any warships would know how to deal with that. Friend Harper, in what order would you recommend watching Objectivism through induction? Understanding Objectivism and Art of Thinking. I've listened to them before, but 4 years ago, and I'm planning to re-listen. God. I would say Understanding Objectivism, Art of Thinking, and then Objectivism through induction. I think Objectivism through induction ultimately is the most advanced. And the other two provide context. Linda, thank you for the sticker. Really appreciate that. Rue, since you don't have boots on the ground, I wonder if there's a way to communicate with the resistance, dropping notes all over the city and supplying them with goods. Can't weigh the word. I mean, look, there is communication with the people on the ground. It's through the Mossad and the CIA having people on the ground. So there are boots on the ground. It's just not vast numbers of soldiers. But Israeli special forces are most likely on the ground in various areas in Iran. And the Mossad is there, and so is the CIA. So there are various ways to communicate and even ways to supply them with weapons. You can smuggle weapons in from Iraq. You can smuggle weapons in from Azerbaijan, which is an ally of Israel in the United States. So all of that is possible. Whether it's being done, I don't know, but it's all possible. Christian, one additional news story. Australia has given 5 women from female football team of Iran asylum. They asked for help and got it. I'm happy for them. Yes, I covered that yesterday. I actually did talk about it yesterday. They refused to sing the national anthem, and they would have been persecuted if they'd gone back to Iran. So good for Australia. Oyvind, if you had 2 alternatives before the war started, would you, 1, prefer Congress saying no and POTUS accepting? 2, going to war without the acceptance of Congress? Does 2 lead to the system dissolving? I mean, God. I don't think 2 leads to system dissolving because 2 has been the practice of American presidents now for decades. So it's not new not asking for Congress, and the system hasn't dissolved. It's gotten weaker, and every time Congress is ignored, it gets weaker still. I think this is an important war to get done, and I don't think you would have gotten a no. So I think it's a false alternative. But I'm not worried about this is the thing. I mean, Trump does so many things that are unconstitutional. And his predecessors have done so many things. And as I've said, 80+% of everything the government does is unconstitutional. And so much of it ignores Congress. And Congress, in some ways, deserves to be ignored, given that it takes no initiative. It refuses to rein Trump in on anything. Right. I'm still optimistic about this war. I think Israel and the United States are working on setting the condition for regime change. They're destroying the many forces and methods that the regime has used to suppress the population. I also think the Iranians are stupid enough not to cut a deal, and therefore will keep fighting, and therefore it's going to be very difficult for Trump to stop the war, declare victory when the Iranians are still launching missiles, and also when he hasn't got the nuclear program taken care of. So I'm going to be cautiously optimistic that good things are still going to happen here and that regime change might still be possible. I mean, here's just, you never know. This is, again, what do you call it? Fog of war. Important developments are happening inside Iran that many people may not be aware of. All right? Baluch fighters, these are the fighters in the east of the country that the Pakistanis are worried about. Baluch fighters have reportedly announced they are joining Kurdish forces in Iranian Kurdistan to help fight against the Iranian regime. I'm skeptical about that. At the same time, Arab groups from the Ahwaz, this is in the south where the oil is, this is the oil region, released a statement warning about fake messages circulating online claiming to represent their tribes. They say those statements are fabricated to divide their movement. There's a lot of, in other words, a lot of tension and a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of fragmentation in Iraq, and it's going to be, it's tough to keep it all together, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of different elements to rise up and help whatever uprising there is in the future. Let me just see. Yeah, I mean, I assume that if the Iranians are putting mines in, that the Americans and the Gulf states are going to be shooting down those boats and destroying them quickly. This is according to the Israeli Prime Minister's office, Netanyahu's office. In the coming days, conditions will be created for the Iranian people to grasp your destiny, adding that the time is right and the time is fast approaching. The torch will be passed to them to seize the moment. Right? So Israel's trying to create those conditions. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you to all the super chatters, and thank you all for listening. I will see you all tomorrow, at probably 3 p.m. East Coast time. And have a great rest of your Tuesday and rest of your week.